Hi, it's Jill Schlesinger. On this episode of Jill on Money, we answer the question, what's the best part of financial planning?
I mean, most people think they think about money as what can it buy me? What can it either buy me now or what could it buy me later in retirement, for example? But what I found is actually the best thing it can buy is financial freedom.
You bet.
The best I get from my money is money I'll never spend. The ability to take a pay cut to a better job or maybe retire at an early age, whatever it is you want to do.
Welcome to the Jill on Money podcast. We are presented by Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Today, we've got a great guest. His name is Rob Berger. He's the founder of the Dough Roller blog and the host of the Dough Roller podcast. So here we have two like-minded podcast hosts chatting about personal finance. Here's our interview with Rob Berger.
You're listening to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
We start the program, very easy question. You ready?
Sure.
Best career or money decision you've ever made?
Leaving a law firm partnership.
Now we're going to get into it, baby. Okay. So, Rob, what's the origin story? You're from Ohio. I know that because I did a very quick, friendly interrogation before we got on the air. So you're from Ohio. You met your wife in undergrad or graduate?
Undergrad.
Met in undergrad. Then you went to law school. You both go to law school together?
No, she's smarter than that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I went to law school.
And then you start on the old law track. So how was that?
I enjoyed it, actually. It wasn't easy all the time. I worked at a big firm.
Yeah.
I was a litigation attorney, so I was doing the 2,000 billable hours a year thing and traveling a lot. Made partner in 8 years, which I think is still kind of the track, but that was the track almost 25 years ago.
Right.
And was partner for 2 years. It was great, and then I quit.
Wait a minute. You were partner for 2 years, so you were only a lawyer for how long?
So it was 10 years, 8 years as an associate.
Yep.
I made partner.
Yeah. How much did you make as a partner?
I didn't quit law.
Uh-huh.
I changed to a different legal job.
Okay, but how much you make as a partner in a fancy law firm at that time?
That's a great question. I want to say, including bonus, it was around $300,000.
What year is this we talking?
That would have been 2000.
I would have thought more.
So at a law firm, the thing that people don't know is there are partners with a small p,
right,
and there are partners with a capital P.
Their
income, well, they've kind of changed it now.
Income
a bit,
and equity.
So there were certainly partners there making $1 million a year or more. I was not one of them, but I got no complaints.
Okay, so so you leave this fancy firm, and then what happens?
So I took a big pay cut. I wanted to do something different, so I went in-house. I was a sort of a technology litigation attorney, and so I went in-house at a technology firm.
Called AOL?
No, actually,
that was a good guess, right?
That's a great guess. Northern Virginia,
right?
Perfect, yeah. And we actually did work for AOL, but I was KPMG Consulting, which later became Bearing Point, which later became bankrupt.
But you were not there during the bankruptcy.
No, I left before that.
So how was it working in-house versus being a lawyer? I mean, you no longer have to deal with billable hours, but you're actually more of a manager when you're in-house, right?
I don't think I was built for in-house work.
Why not?
Because it was kind of a punch-the-clock kind of job. And that's just not my personality.
So 10 years at the firm.
Yep.
How long at KPMG?
Under 3.
And then what?
I went to the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board.
That sounds awesome.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, I know what it is, but you can tell everybody what they do.
So they were created by the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. They're regulated or overseen by the SEC, and they regulate auditors of publicly traded companies. I was an attorney in the enforcement division. And in terms of my legal career, it was by far the best job I'd ever had.
You liked being a narc, huh?
Wow. No, I like hearing from them.
Okay.
Yes.
I got you.
Yeah. No, it was a great job. The people were terrific, loved it.
10 years in the law firm, 3 years at KPMG. Right. Now you're...
Yep, 6 years at the PCAOB.
And then?
I went back to Winston & Strawn. I just switched sides. I started defending the auditors that I was going after.
You're very canny.
Well, that's
you came back in as a partner, as an equity or an income partner?
Neither. I came in as of counsel. Which is kind of a quasi-partner. You get the big office.
Eat what you kill.
Well, yeah, that wasn't actually the arrangement. It was a salary.
Okay.
But yeah, I was not a partner.
All right. So how long did you do that?
I did it for a year or two full-time. Then I went part-time. Mm-hmm. And then in 2016, I retired from law.
Why?
Because I could.
Because you had that much money? You'd saved all that money?
I'd saved enough money.
Did your wife work, by the way?
She doesn't now. She didn't when we were raising our children.
Uh-huh.
She ended up getting a master's degree in education at GW. And for a while, when the kids were in high school and then in college, she did work part-time at an adoption agency.
So you saved a lot of money.
Saved a lot of money. And I also started a website, not for money, was really just as a hobby, but it started, to my surprise, making money. So that helped too.
And when did you start the website?
I started it in 2007.
Okay, so in 2007,
You should be an attorney. You are very good at this.
Thank you very much. So Dough Roller began in 2007 as just like a fun side hustle, or
Right.
what was happening in your life? Why did you need
So,
to do that?
that's a great
You were
question.
very busy.
2 years earlier, I'd kind of changed my thinking on finance. I decided I don't want to live the lawyer lifestyle. I want to live the debt-free financial freedom lifestyle. That was more important to me than what kind of watch I was wearing or what kind of car I was driving, or did I play golf at a public course or a private course. And so that started in 2005, and I sort of totally shifted our perspective.
Rob Berger, you really started the FIRE movement, essentially.
Well, I was certainly one of the early ones, although we didn't call it
I
that.
know.
I wasn't smart enough to come up with that.
Really, I know.
I should have. Man.
Damn it. 2005 is a huge part of the expansion. In other words, the economic expansion is going on. And so what is it about your personality that made you maybe able to sidestep the trap of getting caught up in the hoopla, in the acquisition phase of your life?
I had an epiphany, and I don't even really know what triggered it. It was a couple of things. It was that I don't think many of us, I'll certainly myself for sure, we're not always good at really knowing what makes us happy. We think we do. We've sort of got this life that we lead, and we've got these routines, and presumably we've picked them because it's what makes us happy. And I came to the conclusion that maybe I've got that wrong. Maybe what I think was making me happy isn't really making me happy. And the second epiphany was I have far more control over what makes me happy than I think I believed before that. So, it can be something simple in terms of daily routines. It could be something big like where you work. When I left the law firm for the first time, the biggest challenge wasn't the pay cut. It was that the ego challenge. I'm no longer a partner at a big firm at the big office. I'm some in-house counsel in a tiny office with no window. But then what I found out was, it turns out that big office with the window didn't really make me happy.
It was just a big office, a.k.a. a cell, and you were trapped in it. It was a nice cell.
Very nice jail cell.
Exactly.
So all of that kind of came together in 2005, and I started making some changes.
Now it's 2007. Talk about establishing Dough Roller and what prompted you to do that.
Yeah, so I told my wife I'm bored with practicing law. Even though I love the job, it's kind of tedious. And she said, get a hobby. So I decided to become a woodworker.
What did you make?
I made a workbench.
Oh, my
I've since
gosh.
given it away, but it was...
You were pretty good?
Not really. But it didn't fall apart.
Mark's father is quite excellent. I went into his apartment. I'm like, that's such a nice bench. He goes, oh, my father made it. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, man, that's nice.
That was definitely not me.
Okay,
So I'm doing this, and I thought I need tools. That's the best part about being a woodworker. So I'm searching the internet for a table saw, and I stumble across a personal finance blog. And it was the first time I'd seen a website that I identified as something that just one person was doing
Okay.
and telling their story. And I thought, that's what I need. I don't need to lose a hand or a finger with a table saw. I need to start a personal I love technology. I was doing a lot of technology litigation, and I'd become sort of a personal finance nerd. This is perfect. So I gave up on the woodworking fame and fortune and started Dough Roller.
And what about this world of personal finance just hooked you in?
Well, I love the numbers part of it. I'm sort of a numbers guy. So I love the numbers, and I like the freedom, if we know what we're doing with our money, the freedom that it buys us. I mean, most people think they think about money as what can it buy me? What can it either buy me now, or what could it buy me later in retirement, for example? It's always you're going to spend it. That's what the purpose of money is. But what I found is actually the best thing it can buy is financial freedom.
You bet.
The best I get from my money is money I'll never spend. Hopefully I won't spend it.
Peace of mind.
Yeah, and the ability to take a pay cut to a better job, or to eventually maybe retire at an early age, whatever it is you want to do.
So you're doing this website.
Yeah.
It's 2005, 6, 7.
7. Yeah.
All right, it's 7.
Yep.
What's your feeling about what that fulfills for you in your life? Because that's sort of like the classic side hustle. Do something fun that intrigues you, and then tell us how it becomes a moneymaker and what happens next.
So when I started it was just purely a hobby. I was up literally 7 days a week at 5 a.m. I'd work from 5 to 7. Of course, when I had to work during the week, I would be on the subway. I'd work on the subway, work at lunch. And at that point, it wasn't thinking money. I was just thinking, this is kind of a fun thing to do. But then, you meet other bloggers, you start to study the space, you realize you can make money from a website. It's sort of obvious today, but in 07, at least for me, it wasn't obvious. And you learn how to get traffic to your site. And, you start making some money, and it's literally maybe $1 a day. I mean, it's, you're not making anything. But then you hear that other people are making a full-time living. And you think, well, how in the world do they do that? And you just keep learning, and the years go by, and it does a little better, and it does a little better. And then you're on the Jill on Money show in New York City. I don't know. That's how it happened.
Unbelievable.
It's just like that.
My God.
I was an overnight success. It took me 12, 13 years.
Okay, so you build this thing up, and then you've monetized it. You launch a podcast.
Yeah, that was in 2013.
Okay, and then why'd you sell this thing?
So I'd been running it for 11 years, and I wasn't looking to sell. A company reached out to me, and then a second company reached out to me, and then they started bidding against each other. And then it got to a number where it just made sense. It was a company that I thought was going to continue to do good things with the site. They had purchased a site from a blogger that I know very well, so I could talk to him and get his sense of the company. They were going to let me continue to do the podcast, which was important to me. But in some ways, I sold it for the same reason I left the law partnership. It's like, we've got one life to live, and I want to do different things. It allowed me to write my book. It allowed me to do some work for Forbes, which I enjoy. And, all of that's going to allow me to do some other things that I want to do down the road.
This is Jill on Money.
Hi, I'm Jill Schlesinger, certified financial planner, CBS News business analyst, and host of the Jill on Money podcast. I'm here to tell you about our sponsor, Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Recently, Marcus personal loans were rated number 1 for personal loan customer satisfaction by J.D. Power. How did they get that number 1 rating? Because they put customers first. With a Marcus personal loan, you can choose your loan amount, your monthly payment, and payment date. Also, there are no fees. That means no worrying about late fees or sign-up fees. Even better, their loan specialists are available to help you on the phone. If you're looking to consolidate high-interest debt, pay off credit cards, or make a major purchase, check out Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Go to marcus.com/Jill. You can money. For J.D. Power 2019 award information, go to jdpower.com/awards. And now back to our interview with Rob Berger. What about investing is exciting to you? What kind of investing do you recommend for your listeners and readers?
So I'm very much an index fund, low fee, more or less what I follow. About 15% of my personal portfolio is in individual stocks.
Really?
And
why is that?
Because I don't know what I'm doing, and I made that decision. No, I enjoy. So it's not a big portfolio. It's only a handful of stocks, and I enjoy following the companies. I bought Berkshire years ago for the main reason I wanted to go to the Berkshire Hathaway meeting before Warren and Charlie retired. Well, I was going to say retired, but yes, die.
Yeah.
And I took my family, and we've gone a couple of times. A wonderful experience.
Okay.
And I think I have the temperament to invest in individual stocks, and all I mean by that is I look at fundamentals. I'm not looking at technical analysis, and I am fine holding it for a very long time, notwithstanding a lot of price fluctuation.
But you do think index funds are
the best way to go for the vast majority of people, including myself. Again, 85% of our portfolio is in index funds.
How do you pick your individual stocks?
I'm basically a value investor, and I'm looking for companies that I think would be doing just well 10 years from now or 20 years from now, which is a very hard thing to do, but it keeps me away from the IPOs, the high-tech, fast flyers kind of companies. I'm looking for well-established companies. So I invested in Apple years ago before they split, when they had I'll use air quotes, a bad quarter.
Yeah.
And it freaked everyone out, and their stock went from 700 to like 3-something. To me, that's an easy decision.
Is that the best stock you've bought in terms of performance?
Probably. I bought a couple of banks a little over a year ago that have done well, and that was mainly, they're selling at or below book value. They're paying a good dividend. The banks have never been healthier than they are now, so it just seemed like a good long-term investment. And they've had their ups and downs, but they're doing pretty well.
So what is it that you think is intriguing by this personal finance thing? Are you just an altruistic dude? I mean, you want to help people out, or is it that you feel like you have a different kind of a voice?
So it's a couple of things. Certainly I do want to help people, and that was the podcast. It was something that I really didn't monetize. I don't own it now, but I still produce the show. And it was where I really got to connect with people. The blog, you didn't really connect. Occasionally you get an email, but it was the podcast where I really connected with folks. And I go to conferences now, and they come to the conferences, and I get to meet them. And we have meetups from time to time. So I enjoy that very much. But I also love the idea of trying to build a business. So in that sense, it's about me, I guess, if you will. It's trying to cover both bases, help people with a business that can sustain you.
So what do you sense is the big challenge out there? Give me a few of the hot topics that your listeners are asking you about.
Yeah. So one of them is financial priorities. How do you figure out, do I pay off my student loans as fast as I can? What about the credit card debt I have? Do I invest? Figuring out where their next dollar should go is a big issue. And it comes up, should I pay my mortgage off early? I mean, it comes up in countless ways. So that's one big topic that I hear a lot. The other one on investing, people, when I start to talk about expense ratios, like I'll ask someone, so do you invest in your 401k? Sure do. What do you invest in? I'm not really sure. There's a couple mutual funds. What do they cost? What do you mean? You have that kind of conversation. And then when you show them, even 25 basis points over a lifetime of investing is a huge number. You could be talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, certainly at 50 basis points or 1%. That's eye-opening for most people. And that's one of the things we talk about on the podcast and I talk about in the book. And then compounding. I mean, people conceptually kind of think, I get compounding at some level. They understand interest on interest. But when you start to actually dive into the numbers, you're going to save $200 a month. That's great. Do you have any idea what would happen if you save $225 instead over a lifetime? Would that make a big difference? Our minds, mine included, we can't grasp the power of compounding because it starts to snowball in ways that it's unpredictable. Well, it's predictable, but our minds just don't seem to grasp that.
Yeah, it's sort of like a 3D concept, and we are somewhat more linear in our thinking, many of us.
Yeah.
So what is it about personal finance that's hard for you? Like, what are the topics that you're like, I don't get that, or I'd like to know more about blank. What are those?
There are certain topics that I more or less avoid.
Like?
Complex insurance products. I mean, I know enough to know that for the vast majority of people, there may be some exceptions. You should stay away from them. And I've literally gotten the contracts, and dense as they are, and lawyer as I am, and I start to read them. And I think there's no one on earth that understands this thing.
Agreed.
So, but I don't feel a need to dive in and truly understand complex insurance products. I know enough to know the kinds of decisions we should be making. Mm-hmm. I stay away from that. I'm not into day trading. I'm not into swing trading. I'm not into momentum investing. I understand what they are. Risk parity models, I understand it, but do I dive into it? No. I just don't think it's necessary.
What about like some of the issues around, say, estate planning? Completely comfortable with that? Because you're a lawyer. You did that probably 100 years ago in law school. It took maybe one class.
Yeah. So when someone asked me to write a will for them, I've only helped one person with a will, and it was a Marine heading off to a tour of duty. I am not a trust and estates lawyer. I have one. Mm-hmm. So I'll send them to her. She's terrific.
Yeah.
Again, I know enough to know here are the things generally you need to do. But that's a very specialized area of the law.
It's funny because I believe that no one person, no host, no writer can know everything.
Yeah.
And so tell me who's your audience? Like if you said you wanted to describe the kind of folks who come to Dough Roller are what?
Yeah, so I think of that in terms of the folks that listen to the podcast, right? This is going to sound like a cop-out, but it's a real wide range of people. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of professionals, a lot of doctors, but then I have teachers, I have teenagers, I have high school students email me, or college students email me, and with questions. So, it's a pretty diverse group. It's not, I've had advertisers ask me that. What's your demographic? I don't know.
Well,
I will say it is by and large people that aren't afraid to try to learn something that they might not understand and make some decisions for themselves about their money. Doesn't mean they won't hire an advisor. They might, but on the spectrum, they lean towards do-it-yourself.
So you mentioned earlier that you have some plans for the future.
Yeah.
What are those?
So a couple of things. I want to keep writing books.
Right.
I will probably start another website.
Topic?
Personal finance and investing.
Don't you have a non-compete?
I do.
When's that up?
Next year.
Oh, so I can look forward to 2020?
2020. Don't know what I'm going to do exactly yet. Have a couple ideas.
I want to be a writer for it. Give me a
Do you
holler.
really?
Sure, why not?
That'd be great.
I like you. You seem like a nice guy.
That'd be wonderful.
All right.
Yeah. And I probably want to start some other podcasts maybe. And I definitely want to do a lot of video.
Really?
Yes.
You got that cool
She said,
gray white
really?
hair?
She's like, Rob, I'm looking at you. I'm
No,
not
I was just
sure
gonna say
video
the
is
gray-
the way you want to go.
Well, I mean, video because you want to monetize it, and that's where ad dollars go.
Yeah, I mean, to me, monetizing, sure, but it's secondary.
So why video?
Because, one, I enjoy it. Two, I think you can really communicate a lot of important things about finance visually that you can't, in a podcast or in written word.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Have you ever come to FinCon?
No. I've been invited.
You should speak. You'd be wonderful.
Well, then, you want to hook me up,
I can put you in touch
up
with the founder.
You and I feel like we'll have a nice, lengthy relationship.
That would be great.
All right, now listen, I got some things to do here. You ready?
I guess so.
Before we let you go, Rob Berger, remember the book is called Retire Before Mom and Dad, The Simple Numbers Behind a Lifetime of Financial Freedom. Who publishes this?
I did.
Oh, it's self-published.
It is.
Mark, did we not get this book before? Never, he says.
I thought I sent it to you, but
you know what?
my bad.
Yeah.
I guess I wanted to keep you in suspense. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Before we go, we started the podcast with a question, your best career or money decision. What's the worst?
There were a couple, but I would say joining the country club was probably the worst financial decision I made. That was just stupid.
You're listening to Jill on Money.
Okay, it is time for the Marcus Minute. We are presented by Marcus by Goldman Sachs. In the hot seat today, Rob Berger. He's the mastermind behind doughroller.net. He's also written a new book, Retire Before Mom and Dad. Okay, you ready to play?
I guess so.
Here we go. These are very simple, straightforward answers. Let's go. What's one word to describe your relationship with money?
Honest.
What's always worth spending on?
Freedom.
What's the dumbest thing you've spent money on?
A country club.
Whose face would you put on the dollar bill?
I wouldn't change a thing.
How much do you spend on a haircut?
$35, but that includes a $10 tip.
It's your last day on earth. You've got $100 in your pocket. What would you do with it?
Nothing. I'd just spend the day with my wife and family.
Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks to Rob Berger for joining us. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to go on to his podcast, Dough Roller. Check it out. We'll let you know when that happens. You can subscribe to the Jill on Money podcast anywhere you get your favorite pods. Apple, Stitcher, Radio.com, Google Play, wherever. We drop new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday, sometimes a little bonus as well. Our music is composed by Joel Goodman. Mark Talercio is our executive producer. We're distributed by Cadence 13, and the show is presented by Marcus by Goldman Sachs. See you next week.